What next for Ron DeSantis? This may seem like an odd question to ask, but it seems pretty clear over the last several weeks that even with all these indictments coming down, Trump continues to stand and surge and remain very strong and very dominant. It's hard to see at this point how Trump could be easily elbowed aside. It might be that some of the candidates who got into the race thought, well, Trump is going to be so badly bruised by this legal process that he's not going to be a viable candidate. And maybe there are some people who don't think that Trump can win the general election, but it seems that Republican voters are sticking with Trump. And that puts DeSantis, who's a strong number two, in other words, is clearly ahead of all the others. In fact, probably has as much as the others all put together. Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, Chris Christie, Asa Hutchinson, Vivek Ramaswamy, etc. But nevertheless, DeSantis is still measurably behind Trump. And his efforts to sort of close that gap have not really been very successful. Now, ironically, while DeSantis is in that position, he's been putting out some policy papers. There's one on immigration that I've been reading, and I gotta say, it's excellent. I mean, think about it. First of all, DeSantis is taking up a Trump issue. This shows that DeSantis is not trying to run as some kind of establishment guy, as some people try to portray. He's reflecting in his policies the MAGA spirit. And the emphasis here is on detail. So DeSantis says, number one, he says, I'm going to allow the use of deadly force against people who try to cut through border structures and come across. So that's a very specific point. I'm going to stop them no matter what. U.S. courts, by the way, have held that immigration is a federal responsibility. Recently, the Supreme Court 8-1 said, listen, this is not a matter for Texas to decide. This is a matter for the federal government. They are the ones that police the national border. And DeSantis is like, listen, I will take that responsibility seriously. And quote, you're going to see a huge reduction in the number of people who are going to try to do this. And DeSantis goes into chapter and verse. He talks about how he will do it. And he also talks about ending birthright citizenship. So the idea is that, hey, if you stroll across the border, have your kid over here, was born in the United States. No, says DeSantis, that's not going to do the trick. This kind of gimmick is not going to work anymore. DeSantis also has a plan to wage war on the weaponized DOJ. And that too has a lot of aspects to it. But again, concrete proposals, one of which, by the way, is to smash up the DOJ, including the FBI, and decentralize it. See, a lot of the problem with the FBI is that while the field offices are trying to do responsible work, they're being driven by a corrupt, ideologically motivated DC field office that kind of is the quarterback of the entire team. It's running the FBI from a centralized sort of node center. And DeSantis is like, down with the node center. We're going to basically send this spinning, and we're going to have an FBI that is local police officers doing their job with Washington, D.C. just being one among others. You've got a Denver field office, you've got a D.C. field office, you've got a Boston field office, and so on. Now, I saw an interview with NBC News in which DeSantis said, in effect, I do not want to be Trump's number two. In fact, he said, if offered, I would decline. He says, something to the effect of, I'm not a number two kind of guy. And I totally understand. I mean, he's the chief executive officer of the state of Florida. So in that sense, he is the boss. He is running things that way. And he clearly is an effective CEO. But the simple truth of it is, when you go from being the boss of a medium-sized corporation, in this case, a corporation called the state of Florida, to wanting to be an official, the CEO of a very large company, in this case, the company called the United States of America, you have to realize that it may not happen in one step. Sometimes the CEO of a mid-sized company becomes the vice president of a big company before then becoming the president and CEO. And that's kind of the path I'm suggesting. I'm thinking out loud. I'm not advising Trump or DeSantis. I'm just thinking out loud and saying, it seems to me to make sense. Politically, tactically, as a way to save the country, as a way to defeat the Democrats. And I'm also recommending what I think is both in Trump and DeSantis' best interest. In other words, it's not in DeSantis' best interest to be defeated by Trump, to scowl on the sidelines, to become a kind of sniper at the Trump campaign, and then to sulk and wait for his chance the next time around. It seems to me much wiser and better for DeSantis to say, all right, listen, I don't want to be second fiddle, but I'm willing to be second fiddle as I await my chance, which is, after all, coming. DeSantis is the next generation. He's not even, in that sense, he's not even a peer of Trump's. This is Trump's last gasp. It's his last time around the block, and it seems pretty clear that the GOP base has decided he's our guy. And so part of democratic wisdom is recognizing, well, this is what the people are telling me, and while I want to be their leader, I have to listen to them as much as I want to be able to lead them. So my hope here is that there will be some sort of a treaty, a rapprochement, an agreement, a coming together, a unity ticket on the Republican side, in which Trump and DeSantis find a way to put aside personal differences and combine forces.